Hi, I'm Jelena Kleiss-Corwin, and this is Feature Friday on Create Loyal Fans for Your Brand. And we are going to be interviewing Yulin Lee from Palo Alto, California. Hi, Yulin.
Hey, how are you, Jelena?
I'm great. I'm so glad you're here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Before we start talking about your coaching, I know that you lived in Paris for 4 years. So can you tell us about what you did there?
Oh, sure. So we moved to Paris for my husband's job, and I actually had to quit what I was doing here as a financial advisor, and also I was doing real estate investing. So I had to quit everything here and move to Paris with him, the whole family. And for me, when I first moved there, I was living somewhat of a retired life. Not really have any particular job to do, but I toured around the city. I checked out different neighborhoods, read a lot, learned about French history, hang out with friends at cafes for 3-hour lunches over a couple glasses of wine. So life was wonderful. We also traveled quite a bit, so we got to see a lot of Europe. And but it was also during that time that I started my coaching business there as well. So I actually learned the whole process of how to become an entrepreneur in the French system, which was very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe we can, if we have some time at the end, maybe we can talk about what the differences are in Paris and
Sure.
here.
Sure.
Very interesting. I love Paris. I've been there 3 times and I want to go again.
Yeah. It was best 4 years of our life. And I think the lesson I have learned from all of this, and I would love to share with people too, is that when there's opportunity knocks on your door, you've just got to jump on it.
No, for sure.
I think, looking back, if we had given ourselves more time to think about whether we should do it or not, because it wasn't easy. It was, we were established here and we have kids here. And so moving the whole family was a big deal. But at the same time, we kind of being a little crazy and just jumped on it. And we never regretted it.
Oh, that's exciting. Good for
Yeah.
you. What a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about what you do as a financial coach.
Sure. My mission is to help women to build their financial futures with intentions. Because whether we think about it or not, in one way or another, we are building our financial future. And I think, but the difference is that we're doing it with intentions. So as a financial coach, I help women explore and understand their money stories and understand how our psychology affects our behaviors around money. And then we also work on the actual practices around our finances. How do we mine our finances so that we can start to build wealth and create that financial security for the future? As a financial coach, I really want to help women to get to a place where they can stop working for money and really enjoy their life and the freedom to be able to choose what they love to do.
Oh, freedom is such an important part of our lives. And to be able to do that, how do you help them do that?
Well, specifically, I have a couple of niches that I work with. The first one is I help entrepreneur women to build a sustainable and profitable business. I've met many people who are very talented at what they do, whether it's freelance writer, writing coach, life coach, video photographer, wedding photographer. I've met a lot of people in where I started in Paris. I've met a lot of people who are really good at what they do, but they're still struggling with their business. And I think a big reason for that is, it takes a different set of skills to build that business up from a financial perspective. And so I help entrepreneur women to manage their cash flow for the business and also really focus and improve their profitability, the bottom line for the business.
Wow.
So that's, one area that I work on. And then the second area that I work with are divorced women going through divorce, a big life transition, and they often feel very stuck in their place. And it's a very fearful place. They feel isolated. They feel paralyzed. Oftentimes the word I hear from women going through divorce is they're frozen. They don't know what to do. And especially for women who haven't managed finance during their married years. And it can be very, very daunting and overwhelming. And so I help them through, I'm a CDFA, which is a certified financial divorce analyst. And so I help them through the divorce process by helping them analyze the financial data, the financial numbers that gets presented to the attorneys or to the judge during the division of asset during that whole process.
Oh,
And
wow.
then,
Well,
yeah.
divorce is so hard, and figuring out finances at a time like that when you're so emotionally distraught is
Oh,
very
yeah.
difficult. And that is not the time to try to make sense out of numbers.
No, no. And I mean, that process, it literally is oftentimes me holding their hands to get through, what they need to do, because emotionally there's so much trauma going on.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it is a very painful process. And that's, one of my big passion areas to help women get through those difficult times. And then after the divorce process, we work on creating specific financial plans and to figure out how to build that new life, right? And then how can we do it differently going forward now, being on their own, how to create that new sense of financial security for their own future.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. How did you get started in this?
Well, a couple years ago, like I mentioned, or a few years ago now, when I was in Paris, I had a bunch of soul-searching moments. And when I was thinking about, beyond this kind of a nice life of, drinking wine and looking around in Paris, what can I do? Or what actually I really needed that, right? Is I really needed to do something that's a little bit more motivating and a little bit more meaningful to me. And I looked at my own professional background. I have a lot of finance background. Um, and then also where my passion is. And my passion is really working with women. And so I thought, okay, how do I integrate the two together? And I finally realized that, as a financial coach, it would be a best way for me to kind of blend my professional financial skills, but also the psychology of our behavior around money. Because I think it's really when you integrate the two,
Yes.
that's when real lasting changes happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I become a financial coach. And
Oh, wow.
and you may, I don't know, maybe you may be thinking, maybe other people are thinking that the difference between financial coach and financial advisor, a financial advisor is usually someone who are licensed and their job is to invest your money. But as a financial coach, is really helping people deal with their money challenges in the day-to-day lives that have nothing to do with investment. So
Oh, thank you
the big
for making.
distinction.
Yeah, that distinction is really important because yes, I mean, people would think, oh, you're going to show me how to invest, and I'm not ready to invest, but that's not the track you're on. You're
No.
helping them
Right,
emotionally.
right. And again, another goal for me is to help women get to a point where they feel very self-empowered and knowledgeable about having these intelligent conversations with financial advisors. If they choose to work with a financial advisor to help them invest their money,
Mm-hmm.
what questions to ask and how to
Yeah.
work with them. So
Okay.
that's what I do.
How would people know that they should get this help? I mean, obviously, they're probably wondering, financially, what should I do? But how would they know that they really need to get someone like you?
Right. That's a really good question because financial coaching is a pretty new thing, and I've run into many women. They say, "Oh my God, I don't know, I didn't know this service existed." Right. So I think there are a couple clues. One is, if they're constantly worrying about money, and that they don't see a clear path to improving their finances in their situation. And they don't really have that confidence on, to actually how to go about doing it. Then I would say it's time to, reach out and get help. The second thing is I've also heard many women talk about how they know they need to work on their finances, but they still haven't gotten around to doing it.
It's easy to put it off.
It's very easy to put it off. And if that's been happening, then I think something is blocking them. And so that's another way to kind of a clue for themselves to say, I've been thinking about paying attention to my finances or, get my finances cleaned up, whatever that may be. But, it's been a few years and they still haven't got around doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes they really need somebody to grab them, and take their hand and pull them through those resistance points, because we all have those. And that's, what I talked about earlier is, there must be some kind of, at the psychological, emotional level, there's some kind of blockage and resistance.
Right, right.
And then I would say lastly, if people, they don't feel secure about their future, oftentimes I get women saying, oh my gosh, I've been working for the last 15 years and now I realize I don't have much to show for financially. And now they're getting closer to their retirement, right? And so now it's hitting them and like, oh my God, if I don't make major changes, my future is going to be different. It's not going to be the way that I would like it to be. So I need to do something different now so I can create a different future. And that's another sign where it's time for them to reach out and get some help.
Right. So timing, that's a good message. Timing. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Do it now.
That's right. That's right. And whether it's working with a financial coach or just on their own, if they know what they need to do, then do it now.
Right.
My best advice.
And know what finances if you're in a family situation, what are your finances? I know so many of my friends say, oh, my husband handles that. I don't pay any attention. But you need to pay attention because in a drastic situation, how are you going to even know how to access anything?
Yeah. And that brings up a really good point, because I find that, the biggest challenge for a lot of women who really want to have that financial freedom is that they have this sense of, my husband won't take care of it, or somebody's going through a divorce situation, or that's not me. And, it's hard to plan for those difficult times. But at the same time, it's also very critical to plan for those unforeseen, difficult times that things do happen and life happens.
Absolutely.
And I tell people, we never plan for a divorce, but things do happen, and we want to be in a good position to be able to weather those, difficult situations.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be putting your link in the comments section when we're done, but we do have a couple minutes, and I'm just so curious.
Sure.
What was the difference about being in Paris and being here with coaching for finances?
So, so there's two. I guess I can answer this in two ways. One is, how are the clients different in terms of what people think about, worry about in being in France versus being in the U.S. I think in France, I spend a lot of time educating women on the concept of investing. That concept doesn't really exist there. And I've talked to quite a few women, and some women they tell me, they say, in France, if you're born in a rich family, we talk about wealth preservation. We talk about how to preserve wealth. But we never talk about how to invest it. So if you're born in a family that don't have a lot of wealth, that whole concept of how do I start from zero, nothing, to building something through investing, that's just not very prevalent there. And so I spend a lot of time educating women on that concept. And I think that a lot has to do with, being in a socialist system. They've had this benefit of Social Security taking care of their retirement. But I think that's probably for them, it's going to be changing in the next 20 years as well. So I think it's becoming a more important subject for them to think about. Whereas clients here, we deal with a lot of behavioral issues in terms of spending patterns. In the U.S., we all kind of been trained to say we need to take care of ourselves during our retirement, but yet our spending habits haven't really been catching up to, where we need to be. We need to be on our own. We need to be taking care of ourselves. But yet at the same time, I find that we're having so much struggle around managing our expenses, managing our spending to really get to where we want to be. So that's from a client perspective in terms of, where I see the biggest difference. But as entrepreneur, as I started from nothing there as well. And so I went and registered for what they call the status, what they call the auto-entrepreneur, which is a, entrepreneurship. And the way it's structured, you don't pay any taxes, but there's an income limit. In terms of, if you make above certain amount, then you really no longer qualify for that status. And for that status, you hardly pay any taxes, but then you don't really get to write off any expenses either. So, which is very different from here. From here, whether we're just working on our own or having an LLC, when we think of a business, we think about, how to, again, that's part of my teaching with other business owners is, managing your cash flow, managing your business expenses, in terms of tracking what you spend and how we can deduct them from taxes, all of that whole consideration. That's just not there. And because you don't, as a small entrepreneur, you don't pay much taxes, but then, you don't get to write off. So that whole way of thinking of running a business is very different.
Very different. I can see that. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful that you have both experiences.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And, and I still coach clients there. So my coaching is very much worldwide, and I have clients in other states, and I still go back regularly, at least once a year, and I try to do workshops there. And so I'm keeping trying to keep my business there as much as I can.
Sure.
But obviously, I'm also serving clients in the U.S. here.
Right, right. So they can contact you online and schedule an appointment. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'll put that link down at the bottom in the comments.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful to see you again.
Yeah, very nice seeing you, and thank you for inviting me again.
Sure, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.